Well, the disruptive power of artificial intelligence is rippling across many industries, and research is showing that the biggest impact is likely to be on the transformation of jobs, as we were talking about, as workforces learn to coexist with intelligent machines. To talk about which skills are critical in today's age of automation and how businesses can improve the way they operate to help more people reap the economic rewards of AI, please welcome Heather Brunner and Barbara Humpton with Fortune's Maitri Seetharaman.
Welcome, Heather and Barbara. Nothing I find is more terrifying or worse than closing your eyes and saying, I'm not going to do something because I don't understand it, I'm afraid of it, or it doesn't matter to my life or to my business. I think we've seen that play out in more ways than one. And I noticed that in Europe, over the last 5 years, it has played out both in the political sphere, but also when it comes down to jobs, and it does always translate even into immigration and skills. And the worst thing is our good people leave, and they go somewhere where they are wanted. And AI seems to be the new theme where we talk about where do we go, how do we think, and how do we transform our businesses. And that question 5 years ago, I must say, in a little village in Italy that specializes in making handmade shoes, they told me, oh, technology doesn't matter to us. We make everything by our hands. Business will keep happening. 5 years later, when I went down there, there was a 3D printing machine. There was an automated robot in the corner. And they said, well, we had to, otherwise the village would have died. I think that really brings up the question that we were all talking about yesterday. When you look at digital transformation, is there a great example that we can keep in our heads that you've seen, been part of, that we can say, okay, that's the way to go? Barbara.
Oh, yeah, let me start. And let me just share with you that Siemens is this fantastic infrastructure company. We're working in healthcare, mobility, power of transformation, et cetera. And today in Potsdam, Germany, there's a tram that's running autonomously. Imagine that. No connection back to a command central. The know-how for recognizing this complicated city environment is all self-contained within that tram. Meanwhile, there's a team in healthcare looking at a 3D digital twin of a human heart. And they're comparing data of thousands upon thousands of heart therapies to try to determine what's the best therapy for the individual they're dealing with. And on, we have this kind of transformation going on across our business. And the key question people keep asking us is, are we transforming humans out of the equation? And the answer is no. We're elevating the role of the human. We're finding out what is truly humanly possible.
Yeah, so one of the things that in my company, what we're seeing is we're really help our customers at kind of that intersection between their customers and their digital presence. And what we're seeing is really this acceleration of consumers today and their expectations for what's possible on digital. They're expecting it to be more predictive. They're expecting it to be personalized. They're expecting it to be secure. And they're going to be voting with their kind of brand dollars and their loyalty to brands that really embrace that and bring their humanity together with digital. And so for us, we think that, again, this is going to be inextricably tied. And today, the consumers today, there may be some, our current kind of set of consumers like millennials, et cetera, they have seen a world without technology, without an online world. Our Gen Z, my children, perhaps children, your children, grandchildren, everything is just ubiquitous. There is no separation between digital and human. It is all one. And so really the brands that are going to win in the future are going to embrace that and bring their humanity online to all those surfaces that we, in terms of technology today.
I do want you all to be part of this conversation, so I'm going to come back to you to see if you have any questions. But I do want to have one follow-up before I come right to you. I think the question then comes back to the village in Italy and the business in Italy. How does a small or large business really think about digital transformation bringing in AI, bringing in cloud computing, IoT. There's so many things you have to think about. How does it start, and how should it progress when it comes to thinking about it?
Heather, you want to start?
Sure. Well, the way I would kind of say is I think that just like anything, you need to start first with your customer. Start first with your vision for what are you trying to provide, what to solve for, how are you making your customers' lives better? And with that vision, then what are your values? What are your culture? What's going to be your guiding principles around how you're going to use and leverage technology, your consumers' data, your consumers' trust to fulfill that vision. And then it really takes a mindset, which is one of experimentation and being able to take risks. One of the fastest ways for you to potentially accelerate digital or accelerate your use of AI is through your ecosystem. You probably already have trusted relationships with software service providers, with cloud providers. They are investing billions of dollars each year in building AI technologies and tools, training, enablement, et cetera, that you can take advantage of to start in those kinds of steps. The other way related to, I would say with mindset, is data is everything. To inform powerful algorithms and other types of things you want to give in terms of in service to your customers, you need to have powerful data sets. And so that investment in data is critical.
Yeah, Heather, I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting because Siemens is on this journey with our customers. We're a manufacturer ourselves. But about 10 years ago, we started to invest in software. And now we're one of the top 10 software companies in the world. I don't think everybody needs to start investing and amass your own software expertise. But what I'd suggest, just as Heather is talking about here with an ecosystem, find partners where you can get in a room together and co-create. Start with the customer in mind. What does my customer need? Often it's your service people or your sales people who know they've been hearing from customers. What do we need to be doing differently? And then get yourself some good software folks and get in a room and start building prototypes and pilots. What we're finding is the best way to get going is to simply get started, right? If you don't get started, you'll never get done. And so the idea of create a pilot, see it all the way through, close the loop, see what the data is telling you as a result of using that data to unlock services or value, and then do it again and again and again.
Does it need to be top-down, or does it need to just be ad hoc, try something?
Yes. Both.
Both. Right. CEO vision included. Question from that.
Hubert, EY. I just want to go back to how we ended the previous conversation. There is a real challenge with a significant portion of the population. In fact, in developed countries, Canada is average in the OECD countries when we assess ability of our people to understand an instruction manual. 49% of Canadians have challenges, better in US, better in UK, better than France. So those individuals, I understand we're creating a new world and we're adding the human capability to add so much more value. So we're doing a lot to create more value to help those individuals, but are you contemplating solutions to help some of those individuals that might be in your organizations to help advance their basic literacy skills so they're retrainable and the cost of investing in their training is less than? Have you seen any leading practices? Because if we don't deal with that, we're going to end like we discussed before.
I think that's the issue that keeps being raised even in Europe about the digital skills and lifelong learning. How do companies look at that, and how do you do it as a country and as a region? First?
Yeah, sure. Let me start on this because this is it, right? This is the question. What we're working on is, as we work to bring value to society, we're working hard not to leave anybody behind. And there are two things I think at play. One is how our educational systems are morphing. This past weekend, I was at Clemson University, and I've been hearing about what they're doing to provide linkages into the population all throughout their lives. Lifelong learning has to be one of our new goals. At Siemens, what we're doing is focusing in on middle skill development, working with community colleges and technical schools to make sure that we reach those folks who say, a four-year degree isn't for me. What I want to do is just learn how to get hands-on, bring physical skills together with digital skills and go. But I think also a big key to the future is how technology will become more and more intuitive. Right? We've got big thinkers and folks working on new products that are actually making our digital tools easier to use. And I was just at Siemens Corporate Technologies a couple of weeks ago and had the chance to see how they had a prototype of a factory, and they were showing how to use lift and drop of visual icons to create a new production line that drove a robot that had to autonomously make decisions about how will I take this next action. So I think making things more intuitive, but making the educational system more robust in bringing along people for lifelong learning.
Yeah, I would just say for us, I mean, we're in a war for talent in the technology industry, and as a relatively medium, small-sized business, we're 600 employees globally, and what we saw is that just a need to really open our doors wider. So we've taken away the requirement of having a college degree, and we've instead invested intensively in learning and development and building our own technology training and development courses and programs. We've also invested in partnerships with workforce development organizations both in Europe as well as in the United States. And then we've also been partnering with community colleges and other types of coding programs in the universities to help grow our talent. But we really, our view is you have to invest from within and really spend the time and dollars to make sure that you're training your workforce for the jobs that they need for the future.
I think that brings up another question of if you're doing that for people already in work, and if you have reports out like the World Skills Report that says the kind of skill sets that are going to be required in the next, not just 10, 20 years, but the next 5 years are going to be more human. It brings up the question of, are we teaching the right skills in university or in schools? If you're not going to go and get a college degree and you're going to go to technical school or get an apprenticeship like in Siemens, where do we start? Do we start at kindergarten? Do companies get involved that early on?
Well, we certainly are, and I'm sure you are too, Heather.
Right.
Yeah, it's funny, we had a gathering of some futurists, some academicians, some folks from industry. Again, we were all at the Siemens Corporate Technologies headquarters in Princeton, New Jersey, and I sort of thought, we're going to have a very academic, elevated conversation about what are the skills of the future. And you know what it came down to? What everyone said are the key differentiators for who will be great in the future: curiosity and initiative. Curiosity and initiative. I mean, almost unanimously, these were the words, because frankly, the pace of change is so great that there's no way that a university can take a snapshot of a point in time and say, I'm going to teach you everything you need for your career. No, we need to teach people how to learn so that they can make themselves current and relevant as time goes on.
That really does bring up the next generation that's entering the workforce now. And sometimes I meet my niece and I'm quite surprised and shocked that I don't know half the things she does, and I think evolution has gone a bit crazy. How do we attract that talent to come work for a company that they might think is too staid, maybe too corporate? She has a favorite thing of saying, I'm going to work for myself. I was like, what are you going to do? I don't know, but it's better than being a slave to anybody else. That's a generation that's been born, and I think they come out of the uterus with a phone in their hands. How do we attract that kind of talent when they're not afraid of AI, they're not afraid of technology? How do you do it?
Well, I think one of the things we're studying, because this is a big area of focus for us in advising our customers, is around how are they going to satisfy this Gen Z passion for technology and passion for entrepreneurship. We did a study recently, and 45% of Gen Z said that they wanted to work for themselves and that they would envision themselves starting their own business. So it's a highly, highly entrepreneurial generation. And they're also willing to be much more fiscally conservative, to save and to prepare themselves in order to do that. And I think they look a little bit more conservative than perhaps, kind of particularly the millennial generation. But I think in general, what Barbara's saying is entrepreneurship, curiosity, and also empowerment. One of the things that's really important to us is how do we teach our employees about the business, and how do we get them to feel like they're part of it and solving it down to the at the very most junior level, internship level, all the way up to the VP level. We practice open book management. We're constantly sharing our strategies and areas of focus with our employees so they feel like they're learning, they're being part of our entrepreneurial journey as we build our business. I think that's going to be those kinds of employers that are open, transparent, and are involving their employees in their strategies and business are going to win.
How do you do that in a company as large as Siemens?
Oh, well, right. So that's fantastic, and I think you have a great touch with your employees. We have 365,000 people around the globe. Purpose, right? Purpose. People want to work on something important. And what we're getting to do is we're bringing young people into this realm where they're going to be working on things that persist and sustain our societies for decades to come. We're transforming the energy sector right now. We're working on the digital transformation of manufacturing. We're getting to work on interconnected cities, smart cities. Is the mayor still here today? We need to talk. What I'm finding, and actually similarly, we're all studying this, right? Because we have to know, what are they thinking? In a survey of students and their families, students enrolled in career technical education, 90% responded that what was more important even than a well-paying job was doing something important. And that's what I think we are here for. We're making real what matters. And it's turning out to be an opportunity to bring folks in. Yes, it's me incorporated today, but bring people in and then put in some entrepreneurial spice, intrapreneurship within the corporation. And I think what we're going to do is, you asked, is it top down or bottom up? Yes, it's both, because I think this generation will engage personally.
Any questions from anyone out there? Because I have loads.
We know you do too.
One thing I was going to say is that one of the things we're seeing is some of our younger employees or newer employees are the ones who are actually leading the charge in some of our experimentation related to machine learning and AI. We had a member of our team who took the initiative to help to build an interface between Alexa and our technology to enable text to voice. So that was just championed by his own initiative. He saw an opportunity and said, hey, this is something I want to go do. Similarly, we have employees who are experimenting and helping to lead pilots around chatbots in our service area. So again, I think just giving them the empowerment to say, hey, I want to do this, and say, go for it, do it, take that time, I think is important to keep them engaged and feeling that entrepreneurial ability within a company.
Marcia Moffat from BlackRock. So within, it's interesting your comments about purpose and needing to have a broader goal. And I would suggest that that's important to employees beyond the current youngest generation of employees.
Absolutely.
I think it's becoming increasingly important to employees at other levels as well. One thing I'd be curious about is how do you weave in corporate philanthropy, within your organizations, and include your employees in your corporate philanthropic efforts and have them have a voice in that area?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So our giving back is actually employee-led. So in all of our offices, we allow our employees to be able to really pick and define some key areas of focus that are important to them, and that in service to the communities that we're working in. And then from there, just as part of our core values, so our fifth core value is aspiring to lead, committed to giving back. And so as a company, we're trying to set the tone around, it's an expectation for us to be giving back to our open source community that it fuels and empowers us through WordPress. It's important to us to be giving back in terms of philanthropy and volunteerism and time and energy, and using our tools and technology back in service to the community.
Don't you find that is one of the most powerful tools for employee engagement?
Absolutely.
That when someone puts on our logo and goes out into the community to represent us, they feel that extra connection. I'm not just doing it as me incorporated. I'm doing this as part of, in my case, the Siemens family. And we have Siemens Caring Hands, where employees contribute and then employees disperse those benefits out to their families in the community who need our support. One of the great privileges of my role in the U.S. is to serve as chairman of the Siemens Foundation. So our foundation uses our philanthropic dollars in a very targeted way. And what we've chosen to invest in is exactly the topic we were talking about earlier, this topic of building the middle skills, helping along a workforce that might otherwise be left behind. So we're making contributions, but what we found is we can do it more powerfully in concert with other philanthropic entities as well, really magnifying the reach that we have as Siemens. And frankly, for many of you, just putting your logo on some of these efforts will help philanthropic institutions attract more to their overall efforts. So employee-led grassroots efforts, and then some very targeted corporate social responsibility. That's been our formula.
Mm-hmm. I think that brings up the question at some point of how much of that communication, that philanthropy needs to be targeted inwards, and also to areas that might not be as well connected. It's all well and good to talk about digital transformation of companies when you are in connected areas, but there are areas that are not connected where the fear factor is high, or companies where the conversation is not happening between management and staff. How much of that has to be turned inward as well?
Mm. Well, let me share that we're about $23 billion US in revenue in the US. We're spending about $50 million a year in internal training. One of the things we're talking about as we select new leaders, I'm going to be having a talent review with my US leadership team next week, and we're actually going to be evaluating our top talents on their DQ, which digital quotient, right? It's that thing you have to add to the IQ and the EQ. Future leaders have to have a strong digital quotient as well. And so that opportunity to ask ourselves, are we giving the best development opportunities to the people who show the greatest promise in leading our future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think for us, back to where we see that a lot in terms of one of the things that's so exciting about being part of an open source community is that it is a very democratizing technology. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we see is the power of open source technologies as a way to bring more people into technology. And for us to be a leader there in terms of investing in the community, investing in the open source project, making sure that we're in all communities. This last year we did 170 open source community projects for WordPress. And so again, by helping, being there, mentoring, we see that's a way to bring people in and kind of demystify technology, demystify digital.
Well, if I had to ask you for final thoughts on the 3 tips that you would give to anyone who's thinking about a digital transformation, what would that be? And would changing your mindset about return on investment be right on top?
That's interesting. My 3 tips would be, get started. Don't be afraid. Tap into the talent that already exists in your organization.
I would say first, be customer focused and driven. Embrace the youth in your organization, the digital natives in your organization to help you to get started. And I think like Barbara, just dive in and go. Pick something small. It doesn't have to be something big, and just go for it. Trial and error, that's the way AI works for now. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the way we're going to have to try.
It's the way we learned as babies.
That's exactly it. It doesn't really change, does it?
No.
Well, ladies, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Marjorie, thank you.
Thank you.